hoping to be finished by 2:30 for our valedictories. It's on, no? Welcome back, everybody, to the council meeting of the 5th of October 2022. As I said earlier in the day, this is our final council meeting for the year, and we've done the apologies and the declarations and extraordinary business, so we're now on to the minutes on page 3. Any alterations or additions on page 3? Page 4. Page 5. 6. So I'd like to move.
I'll move.
Councillor McMillan.
I'll second.
Seconded. Councillor Rawlinson. True and accurate record. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Thank you. Move over the page, number 7. Item number 5, Audit and Risk Committee. Because we won't be having another meeting this term of council to confirm these minutes, we'll confirm them here. So any alterations or additions on page 7 or 8? Stuart? Oh, no, someone's got John.
Just moving.
Stuart, John moved, Stuart seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Item number 6, the adoption of the Ashburton Airport Development Plan. Welcome, Richard. And Tony. Anything further to add to the report you've got, Richard?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay, let's go to questions. Councillors, questions? Caroline?
With your indulgence, I have a few questions, and I'm on the Stella, not on the agenda, on the Stella section. First one is, which is a little bit ridiculous, but we don't need whole of New Zealand on page 6. We can just put New Zealand. It's implicit that it's whole. The first paragraph, history, yeah. If we go now to page 6, monthly usage, 7,000 to 8,000, 7,500 to 8,000 movements. Is that 6 months or is that monthly? It was unclear.
Usage.
Page 6.
Do you think the number of movements is actually relevant to the development plan?
Well, I think if we're going to say it, it needs to be clear what it represents. That's all. That's all my point. It is what it is, isn't it? So it needs to just be clear.
The seven,
it was under page 6, monthly usage, 7,500 to 8,000 movements.
So the 7,500 to 800 movements is an estimate based on 6 months of data.
Thank you. So can we write 6 monthly in that then?
It says.
Well, it says 6 months of data indicates the current annual usage
pardon.
is
So
around
that's annualised up to 6.5 or whatever it is. Okay, thank you. If I go to future considerations, page 7, last paragraph, you just got to give me time to find these things. Page 7, future considerations. It is important to Council to continue monitoring the situation throughout the life of the development plan. How is that going to be done, or how often, and the frequency, and through the chair?
When I put those words together, I was discussing it with Mr. Adam and Mr. Windleborn, and we're not talking about detailed monitoring of statistics. We're looking at what's happening in the aviation industry, and there are various ways in which the officers stay in touch with what's happening in the industry. They're part of the Small Airports Association. They're obviously looking and seeing what's happening in the news and talking to people who are in the industry. So I'm not anticipating any formal monitoring program, just people keeping their eyes and ears open.
Okay. Righto, thank you. When we look at the values, we have safety in the values on page 8. We don't have safety in the goals. Is that because it's considered unnecessary to have it reflected in the goals. We've got safety management, page 8.
I believe it's in goal 3.
Yeah, it is. I can see it there. I'm not sure why I've got that there. I'll have to go back to that. One more question, then I'll hand over to someone else. Point E, page 9, no mention of safety. Managing the effects of airport noise on residential, recognising the airport's value, but I can't see a message of safety there, and I think that was a key aspect that came out of the consultation.
It is in the early on document.
That's correct, but this is overview. I think it's important that it's in there somewhere.
Hamish?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, our intention was to put it right up front in the goal, so that it's actually implicit in every other thing, because that's in the goal. So it wasn't to make sure we had X number of references to safety throughout the document. It was to put it right up the front as a banner issue for us. Yeah.
Okay. There are other things that were mentioned in the goals that are not mentioned, but never. I'll leave it now. Thank you. I'll come back later if I may.
Councillor Latham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am just a little concerned that we may ruin the very thing that makes the airport popular. So I wonder, could I be advised in simple words, what is the procedure and possible time frame for a plan change if we decided to do hangar homes, or if there was a demand for hangar homes? So what I'm concerned about is whether the population of our district has an opportunity to have another say if that eventuates. So could I be advised as to how would a plan change take place, and how long is it likely to take?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and Jamie, I'd like to comment in a little more detail, but certainly if there's a plan change, the community has the opportunity to comment.
Yes.
The idea of the 30-year plan is to create a framework for the development of the airport over the next number of decades. So that it's trying to establish a general direction that other things that then happen there will be consistent with the direction of this plan. But Jane may wish to comment more specifically about a plan change process. Jane?
Yeah, thanks, Hamish. Through you, Mayor Brown, it would take at least 6 months for a plan change, but we would need quite a bit of investigative work done before then, like market viability and various other things, sewage disposal, water, all of that stuff as part of the preparation for a plan change. So it would depend on the will of the council as to how quickly you wished us to advance that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Lovett.
Under the 30-year plan, we heard at consultations that the runway is vulnerable. Should we have in our 30-year plan, should we add a sealing of the runway? Because nowhere in there have we got future sealing of the runway, because it's going to need to happen probably in the shorter term. Should the sealing of the runway be there, and perhaps looking at down the line, bring in that security fencing and car parking? Because, otherwise they're just, we're looking at a 30-year plan and all these things are going to be needed in the future because it's happening now out there.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, they may or may not be needed in the future, and it will certainly be dependent on the rate of development. So if nobody wants to build a residential hangar and the air movements don't change, then nothing will change about the runway. So it's not that we would we're not proposing to seal a runway in year 7 to give effect to something. It's going to be an iterative process, because it's going to be how the market responds to the general framework that will dictate when infrastructure needs to be contemplated. So there may be a development within the framework of this plan at a future point that would mean there needs to be an alteration to the runway, but no one could predict when that would be. I don't know.
Yeah, it was just that they're having issues out there now and they're looking after their runways, and it's going to be a known it'll happen, and I was wondering whether perhaps these things should be just noted in the plan going forward, because it was brought up at consultation level.
It's a 30-year plan.
Yeah.
And I'm sure once we adopt this plan, if we do that today, it's not going to sit on the shelf and then we'll drag it out in 30 years' time and have a look at it. If it needs updating, we would update it as required. So there might be a question, Tony or Richard, when would we or could we update this plan? Anytime?
My recommendation in terms of a time frame for update would be that you would look at it perhaps in 10 years' time or sooner if events dictated that you should review it.
Yeah, so Councillor Love, that might help you with your queries.
I think, it's a good plan, I like it.
Right. Councillor Wilson?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, on page 6, we talk about grass runways. It says we take steps to manage wear and tear. Do we have to be a bit more definite about that? What happens if it is start to be damaged? Are we going to stop operations, or are we going to have somebody oversee them so that they need maintenance, or how are we going to manage them?
My understanding is at the moment this is managed by way of contractual arrangement with the Aero Club. So they have a member of the Aero Club who effectively is, for want of a better word, the groundsman for the airport. They have a number of different strategies available to them currently, including the ability to direct pilots to land on one side of the runway or another, depending on where the wear and tear occurs, and also to land further down the runway if need be. So there are some strategies in place now. If Council believes that they'd like more specific detail on some of that, we can certainly provide it. I didn't feel it was necessary in the context of a 30-year plan.
Supplementary, that's very good. They have looked after it very well. What happens with the proposed, I know that's not part of the plan, but certain aspects of this council are pushing like mad to bring this big commercial flying school in. How can they manage, if the Aero Club manage the runways, how can a commercial organisation be subservient to a group of volunteers? Where is that going to sit as far as management goes of our airport?
As we discussed through the hearing stage of the draft plan, any proposal for a flight school will come back before this council, and we will be covering the matters that we think should be covered to enable you to make an informed decision. But if council, in considering that, requires further information or wants to understand things differently or better, then you'll be able to do that at that time. So this council will have complete control over the things you need to understand in relation to that flight school proposal.
Stuart?
Yes, thank you. On page 23, there is a few proposed financial implications to make the airport self-supporting. The bottom one of 14,000 for this proposed flight school, I won't know why that was even put in. That, as we heard in the submission, that's a few cents per landing. I hope whoever talks to the flight school doesn't come back with a concrete proposition to give it to them to the airport for practically nothing. Why was that put in there at that lower figure, if it's not real?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is no real figure at the moment because the proposal hasn't been prepared in detail to come before you. So there's an indication of where some preliminary conversations have been that could just as easily be a different number. But for the purpose of a 30-year plan, it was trying to give some sort of framework to it. But in the end, the price of the lease will be for councillors to decide.
Councillor Cameron?
Just to carry on from Stuart, when you look at the flight school proposal, we've got here, council acknowledged that Ashburton Airport is a right place for pilot training. It deferred decisions on the New Zealand Airline Academy proposal until the overall framework in this development plan has been adopted. So if you can just explain to me again, Hamish, how that is going to work. We adopt this plan with this proposal in it, with the $14,000, but then it comes back to council subsequent to say whether we accept the $14,000. We adopt the plan with the landing numbers and all the rest of it there. How's that actually going to
We have
work?
a point of order.
Just needs a slide.
Just, your lights go off so Angus can come on.
Lights off, please.
Turn your light off, councillor Cameron.
I believe the question being asked is actually out of the scope of a 30-year plan and in the scope of a future decision at a future time by a future council.
Yeah, upheld.
I would disagree with that.
You can, but you can't.
Okay, then my question is, Hamish, can you please explain to me the process for reviewing this information as per page 20 of the long-term plan?
If you're referring to the numbers on page 23, they are all simply estimates. None of those numbers are guaranteed. None of those numbers are committed in any way other than us forecasting what we think might happen. So
I'm referring to, if I may clarify, the last sentence on page 20. Council acknowledged Ashburton Airport is a right place for pilot training. It deferred decisions on the New Zealand Airport Academy proposal once this has been adopted.
I don't
my
understand. I'm
question.
sorry, I don't understand the question.
Well, if we adopt this, then we're going to go and discuss the airport proposal. Is that correct?
With the academy, yes.
There will be a separate decision for council to make in regard to the particular flight school proposal. I'm really conscious there's already a small flight school down there. We're not banning flight schools because the Aero Club's already running one. So council would come to a decision, if you like, that the airport is the appropriate place for flight schools to be, and that's the appropriate place for pilot training to be. In relation to a particular proposal that requires a property lease in order for them to give effect to their flight school, that matter will come back before council in all its specific detail.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just coming back to the point about sealing the runway raised by Councillor Lovett, to me that should not be part of this. That is an LTP decision which is reviewed every 3 years, and the new council will have the opportunity to bring that in when they review the LTP.
Thank you. Questions over. Someone like to move the recommendation that we have in front of us? Councillor Latham. Councillor Brown seconded it. Councillor Latham, you want to speak to the motion?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I did have some reservations, I must admit, when I went through the plan, and we have been sidetracked a wee bit by other factors such as flight schools and the like, which we're all familiar with now. But upon reflection, I'm very much in favour of this plan. I think it's a good 30-year plan. I was concerned that with the way the plan was written, we may be destroying the very thing that makes the airport an attractive place. We do, if we're not careful, run the risk of visual pollution by more buildings and whatnot. The runways are a challenge, but that's been adequately answered by the Chief Executive. So, and I appreciate his comments. I think we're well and truly covered because any future council will have to sign off on any other major development, such as the sealing of runways, and whether we do have hangar homes, which I find challenging, but that's a matter for later, if and when there is a demand for it. So I think the plan has been well prepared, it's been well presented, and I'm very much in favour of it.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Oh, exactly the same. It is a good plan. It's a 30-year plan. Every plan will change within that time, but at least we give vision values and goals, what we want to see. I think it's a great outcome.
Councillor Mackay.
Mr Mayor, councillors, underlying concerns that a large number of submitters had was safety, and I'm very pleased to see the words added. Council will have regard to safety in all decisions relating to the development and management of the Ashburton Airport. I think staff got those words absolutely correct. I can now vote for the 30-year plan.
Thank you. Further speakers for or against? Councillor Rawlinson.
Yes, I support the adoption of this plan, but Councillor Mackay's basically taken what I was going to say. But to me, safety has to always be front and centre of everything, and it's not only safety on the airport; it's safety to the surrounds and the residential areas. So, but yes, it's a 30-year plan, and it'll be probably almost a living document. Is that possible as it gets updated as actions happen on that journey? Thank you.
Right to reply, Councillor Latham, if needed. I'm going to put the motion. I'm in favour. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Tony Richard. Next item is transfer of water races to Acton Farmers Irrigation Co-op. I've declared an interest on this, so Deputy Mayor will take the chair.
Thank you. I'll just get to the right spot. Thank you. So we've got Richard and Tony here. Anything to add to the report?
No, thank you, Madam Chair, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Lovely, thank you. I'll take questions now for Richard or Tony. Councillor Mackay.
Madam Chair, I ask for your indulgence before you call for a mover of the recommendation, because I would at that point like to place on record a notice of motion that Council place on record its support for the transfer proposal. The recommendation we have in front of us, Madam Chair, is quite absolutely legally correct, and we cannot stray from that, in my opinion. So I'm going to ask for your indulgence at the right and proper time that I can give notice of a further motion to tell the people that actually Council supports it.
Thank you. Well, we'll see if there's any more questions, and there doesn't appear to be. Councillor Falloon.
I'd just like to move the recommendation.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cameron?
Oh.
Councillor Mackay?
Madam Chair, I give notice of further motion after this has been decided, of those words I just read out to you.
It's going to essentially take that in 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Any speakers for or against? Councillor Falloon.
I appear to be the only one. This has taken a wee while to get to this stage. The assets have been leased for the last 10 years. To me, I would like to see it as the forerunner of many in the future, and to me it is the way to move forward as far as stock water races is concerned. Therefore I support the recommendation.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against? That was the right to reply as well. Right. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, say aye. Against? No. Carried. Councillor Mackay.
Madam Chairperson, I move that the Council place on record its support for the transfer proposal.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Wilson?
Yes. Yep.
Seconder.
Madam Chair, the stock water race system is actually proving sometimes quite difficult and litigious. The staff, quite rightly, have to follow the Local Government Act and the RMA Act
And that's why I said at the beginning the recommendation is legally and absolutely correct. But we also believe have to tell the people of Acton area and the council area of what we're actually doing. We are actually supporting the efficient use of stock water throughout the district. And that's why I ask councillors to actually be very focused on the word support, to do other stock water closures, management decisions, etc., in the future. I ask for you to support the motion.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Wilson.
Naturally, I fully support Councillor Mackay's motion. The first motion we passed, it sounded a bit negative because we were exercising our right not to object. So I think it's important to put a positive motion in as well to show that we are fully supportive of the Acton farmers taking over the management of their waterway system.
Any other speakers for or against? So I'll just read that motion that council place on record its support for the transfer proposal. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against no. Carried. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor McMillan, taking the chair for that item. Next item on the agenda is item 8, the adoption of the Ashburton District Council Stormwater Bylaw 2022. And we have back Tony and Richard. Richard, anything further to add, Tony?
I don't have anything to add through you, Mr. Chairman. We had the deliberations, what seems like about 5 minutes ago. So happy to answer questions.
Questions, councillors? I have just one, and we had a lot of discussion around when we had the deliberations, was a collection of rainwater off the roofs and using it at a later time for irrigation of gardens. So looking at the plan, how do we advance that, be supportive of people who want to do that? Where in the plan is that?
First of all, it's not a plan as such, it's a bylaw, so it's a regulatory instrument. Yeah. Secondly, there was, I share your vivid recollection of that discussion, and what officers were looking for was a resolution directing us to take some action, and at the end of your deliberations, there was no resolution to that effect. I believe Mr. McCann has indicated that that we would find some relevant information to put on our website, but more than that, we haven't been directed by council to do. Not sure whether that last sentence was completely grammatically correct, but I think you got my point.
So when council adopts this bylaw, if they do shortly, then there could be another motion coming that council or staff is directed to progress that.
I never know what could come off the floor of a council meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, council would have that opportunity. The more specific the resolution, the greater the assistance to us in preparing something to reflect the will of council.
Yep. Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Where does our power dictate in this with ECAN? Because our section when we built, ECAN stipulated that we put the water off our roof into a tank. That was an ECAN consent. The subdivision had an ECAN consent, nothing to do with the district council. So if we're talking about making it mandatory or encouraging people, where does that sit with ECAN consents?
Where it sits is that where there is a council urban stormwater system, the authority, because council has been granted a global consent, the authority sits with Ashburton District Council. If someone was to do a subdivision outside of an established urban area, then it's still an ECAN matter. But where we have a stormwater system, a consented stormwater system, which we do for Ashburton and which we're in the process of seeking for Methven and Rakaia, then my understanding is that the authority will sit with us.
Supplementary question. Where in this strategy bylaw does it mention about having to put stormwater through wetlands? I believe the government or ECAN were going to make that mandatory, but I don't think we actually stipulated in here, do we?
No, we do not.
Well, should it not be in our plan that if it is brought in by ECAN or by the government, there is provision for us to enforce it, or is it just override our plan?
It's always been my understanding that legislation overrides local bylaws. So that would be my first observation. The other thing I would say is that we're also managing our stormwater system in accordance with our resource consent, and that and our resource consent comes under the RMA. So if there were provisions within the documents that form part of our resource consent, such as the stormwater management plan that pertain to wetlands, then that's part of our resource consent and we're obliged to follow it. I'm just not familiar enough with that detail of the resource consent to confirm whether they do or not. And certainly if it's part of a land and water regional plan or part of a legislative national policy statement or national environmental standard, then we're bound to follow it.
Councillor Flood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just in case this policy comes back to bite us in the backside at some stage in the future.
It's a bylaw, Councillor.
Yeah. I'm just looking for correctness. Page 31, clause 13, I think council deliberations were on 29th of September, not 29th of October.
For correctness, yep, correct. If no further questions, someone would like to move the recommendation we have in front of us that we adopt this bylaw. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown. Open for debate. Do you want to speak to the motion, Councillor Cameron?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think we gave this a good review in September. And as you alluded to, Richard, I feel it was very recently, and as I understand your recollection of the grey water and the roof water was correct, and I'm happy to move this bylaw and urge everybody to support it.
Thank you, councillors. Any speakers for or against the motion? With there being none, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Just following on from the previous chat I had before about assisting or moving on collection of rainwater from roofs of houses to collect for use at a later date. I have a recommendation here, a motion, which would read that council progresses a mechanism to assist utilisation of rainwater harvesting system in the Ashburton District. And I'll look for a seconder.
I'll second that.
Any debate, discussion? Stuart.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm opposed. You say the Ashburton District, that means every rural house is going to have to put in a water harvesting system. I mean, to have a blanket thing to me is ridiculous. We're really only talking about urban people that are connected to our urban water systems, surely, because in rural areas, well, a farm, are you going to be expected to put in a rainwater tank when you've got an irrigation well pumping thousands of litres? Or, I mean, to me, it's completely impractical. The motion should have read to cover houses that are within the urban areas that are connected to domestic water systems.
I may assist in the move in the second. I may want to change it, but progress a mechanism to assist voluntary utilisation
Thank you.
of rainwater harvesting. If the second is happy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Councillor Lovett.
Yeah, I'm
Now, the
happy.
mover and the second is happy with that, so that's now the motion.
I'm happy with that. I think it's a great idea, and with the changing climate and water shortages, we have to look at other options going forward in town.
Councillor Rawlinson?
Yes, I support it. I think that, as we know, water is a very precious resource and could become more precious into the future. And living in town, once I came to town, I often wondered how difficult or easy it would be to put in a rainwater tank. But I think our conversation arose from other area, and I'm not sure whether it was Auckland or who, that were looking at making an easier process through consenting and at lower fees to encourage people who wish to do this, for us to enable them.
And that'll all be in the report that comes back to us.
Thank you.
Yes, Stuart?
Mr Mayor, I'm still opposed. Voluntary has a habit of becoming compulsory. And the way society nowadays becomes more and more PC, once we get that in as a future, do-gooding councillors will say, let's make that compulsory. It should not apply to rural areas.
And there'll be a further motion come back once the report's written as to where it will apply and where it won't. So future councils will get to decide whether it's voluntary or not and where it'll relate to if it gets that far. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. If it's a voluntary option, why are we doing anything?
To assist. To assist. Councillor Latham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Brahm has indicated my thoughts, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's another one of these nice, warm, fuzzy ideas we're all predicting is going to be catastrophic with climate change, and the climate will change. It's not causing us any problem at the moment, so our staff have got enough things to do. They're under enough pressure doing the everyday things without asking them to do anything extra. This problem is not broken, so let's not worry about trying to fix it. I'm opposed to it.
Councillor Cameron.
I think we have to accept that the world is changing and that we have to view water as a precious and finite resource. So I certainly think that the proposal is worth investigating. Sometimes voluntary is made more voluntary by rebates and things through the council process. I'd probably at this stage be opposed to that unless there were significant gains. But I certainly support your motion, Mr Mayor.
No further speakers for or against. No right of reply required. I'll put the motion. I'm in favour. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Next item is number 9. Support for AEC funding application.
Thank you.
53. Thank you, Jane and Tony. And we have one member of the public today who's interested in this application. Welcome, James. Tony, the floor's yours. Any further to add?
Thank you. Nothing further to add, but happy to take your questions.
Questions, councillors? Angus.
Mr Mayor, I'm wondering what is meant by, page 54 of the agenda, item 7. What is meant by the last part of the sentence, and make decisions for freshwater management? Explained, please.
Thank you, through the chair. So we've just picked that up directly from what's been provided to us by AEC. So that's come directly from the conversation AEC is having with the Ministry for the Environment.
So, what are the chances of the Ministry of Environment coming back to us later on another issue up there and saying, but you supported that Arawhenua can make decisions for freshwater management in the area? I'm kind of struggling. That's why I wanted further explanation, please.
Through you, Mayor Brown, all you're being asked to support is the actual monitoring program, not any decisions arising from it. And this request has gone to all of the stakeholders involved in the Aotearoa Working Party. So that's us, ECAN, Arawhenua, DOC, MFE, MPI, and some of the farmers from up there, all 4 farmers.
Councillor Floon?
I need a translator. Page 58, 1.41. Could someone translate that back into English for me, please?
Which part? Oh,
Page 58, clause 1.41.
yeah, Katikitanga is guardianship. Mana Whakaweri is the area, the mana.
That's not.
Unless someone else can do a better job than I.
Through the chair, the Mayor, you actually hit the nail on the head. So it's around the guardianship and this, for want of a better word, like the specialness and the uniqueness of the area to Māori. And so Takiwā means the region, so the area itself. So it's around enabling Māori to be able to exercise the and understand the implications of what's going on up there for them as our Indigenous people, and recognising the importance of the area to Māori.
Councillor Lovett?
I'll go back to number 7 and it's just that particular wording, and make decisions. Is it joint decisions, or is Māori making the decisions up there? And I think it should have been better worded. To me, it's a joint decision between all the groups, not kind of looking at that it's them that are making the decision.
Thank you, through the chair. So it certainly is a joint decision making, but this is enabling Māori to be able to understand and monitor what's going on there. It's quite an exciting project. That real-time monitoring is exceptional to have in the area, and we'll all benefit from it.
And you know, I really agree with what they're doing here, but it's just those words. It's like there's going to be a decision from them and a decision from others, and I look at some of the irrigation things and they're wanting us to use less water and that, and I hope it's not a forefront of trying to stop everything going, happening in the future.
Hamish?
Sorry, just to put councillors' mind at ease, that's wording in the officer's report, right, taken from Mana Whenua's request for support for their funding application. So we could phrase that differently, and it won't make any difference to the impact on the future management or control of freshwater or Atawharakai or anything else. So what we're being asked for is to support a funding application so that AEC can exercise the Mana Whenua opportunities, rights, obligations in a particular part of our district. So the wording in the report is not meaningful in contributing to any decision that you're being asked to make. You're not setting any precedent whether we altered those words or not. Yeah. And was lifted directly, as Tony said, from their letter to us.
Just before I go to Councillor Brown, I have a question. The activities in the plan, who monitors to see that they'll be achieved?
That will be the Ministry for the Environment.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Point 7. English is not my first language, but I can understand it. It tells me it's for Maori to participate in. So they're part of it. They're not making it.
Councillor McMillan?
I was.
Hang on.
Want to move.
Hang on.
I was going to move
Hang
it,
on.
but Liz is going to move it.
Hang on. Lane, you do.
No, I'm fine.
Liz.
If there's no further question, I'd like to move the motion, but I see
Any further
Carolyn and
questions?
Stuart have their
No, I was going to move
lights
it.
on.
Moved. Councillor McMillan, seconded Councillor Cameron, open to debate. Will you want to speak to the motion, Liz? Oh, Stuart?
Yes, I think some of you got the wrong idea in that at the moment there is, ECAN does tests on the lakes up there and the streams, but it's a bit spasmodic. And what they want, these testing sensors to be there so they can get a definite long-term analysis what's actually happening. Because sometimes there's birds come in and birds come out and people say there's a lot there, then there's none. If it's spasmodic, you don't get a true picture. And so this is not just for Aotearoa's benefit, it's for the zone committee and the run holders and everybody to get a true picture of what's actually happening to all the lakes up there.
Councillor Mackay?
I'm going to support this, Mr Mayor. I'm going to support it because the group manager made a very good job of answering my questions earlier. I've always believed that real-time data collection should be the basis for science, not modelling. Some of you will get my point, some won't. But what I do question, but I'm still going to vote in favour, is damage and the disadvantages on page 55. It actually said damage to the relationship for no gain to council. Can I just remind councillors, the elected council, that we don't actually have a relationship that we are proud of with our whenua, and it's not our fault. I'll just leave that with you. I wish there was a good relationship, but there's not.
Councillor McMillan, right to reply?
Thank you. I just urge everyone to support this. Roto Wharekai is an important part of our district, and I think if we can do anything to support the application of funding, then we should.
I'll put the motion. I'm in favour. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Over the page is to item number 10, page 62, Community Honours Award Policy. Welcome, Mel. Anything further to add to the report?
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Questions, councillors? I just see that one that's going to be removed is the honorary citizens. Yep. Because we've never given any out, so irrelevant. Yeah. And I did have a couple of questions or perhaps changes in the document, but Liz will go first.
Thank you. Have we ever given any keys to the district out either? I remember last term when we were made this policy that the keys to the district were added in, as well as honorary citizens, I think. But just wondering if we've ever given out any keys to the district in the past. And could there be a combination of honorary citizen and keys to the district to combine them?
Could Tony?
Thank you, through the chair. So we haven't gone and done the history way back in time, but certainly in recent history there haven't been keys to the district handed out. I mean, we could certainly look to blend the two together if you felt that was critical. I guess just to give a bit of a background to the honorary citizens and why we're recommending that it could be removed if your council was inclined. We felt that when you look at the criteria, a recipient could be given one of the other awards. It was pretty a little bit vague, perhaps, and actually given that we hadn't given any out, that perhaps by not having an extra award just sitting there, that the manner of the other awards could be heightened by removing honorary citizens. So,
just a couple of points which I'd like to highlight. On page 69 under 2.1 in the draft policy, the Mayor's Award for Public Service is the highest civic honour bestowed upon the council, and the words "the highest civic honour bestowed by council" has been removed, and I'm wondering why they would be removed, because that is, and it needs to say that it is. So I'd like those words put back in. And moving on to 2.2, the civic honours bestowed upon an individual for their lifetime. This is the only, it mentions it only in this award that it's for their lifetime. Are the other awards for limited time? I don't think so. So is the words lifetime in there relevant? Or take it out, or put it somewhere else that all the awards are for the lifetime?
Yeah.
And moving to the Ashburton Medal 3.2, only one Ashburton Medal may be awarded each year. Why is there only one? If there's more than one worthy recipients of, then perhaps there could be more. So why are we only limiting one? Tony, do you have a comment for that one, or your last one?
Yes, would you like me to go through the three
okay,
comments?
yeah,
just to understand, so you can understand what we were thinking. At the end of the day, it is a council decision where you land. So in terms of the removal of the phrase under the Mayor's Award for Public Service, the highest civic honour, we have suggested taking that out because actually the awards are for different things. And so the Mayor's Award is actually recognising a sustained, long service to the district. The Ashburton Medal is for achievement, exceptional achievement by an individual or a team or an organisation, but it may not necessarily be within the district. It may be some international recognition of the Rose Growers Association, for example, but it may not necessarily have benefit to the district. And then so the Civic Awards were, I guess, of a more localised, shorter term duration volunteering commitment to something within the district. So that was our basis for suggesting that perhaps the terming one as the highest award over the other could be removed, but that's entirely your call. The Ashburton Medal, this is an historic clause in terms of that it's only been one awarded each year, and that's, I guess, to maintain the prestige and the manner of it, but at the same time, if council's inclined to open it up wider, that's completely fine. And the last question was on...
for the lifetime. For the lifetime, yeah. 2.2.
Oh, yes. Again, that's a historic one. It's either it's not like the award for any of the three would expire, for example. So you could have what we could do is perhaps pull that in earlier and just say that all the awards are for your lifetime, and then that it just applies to all three. So that's
Correct,
the point.
yeah. And then just on the number of the awards, there's one for the Ashburton Medal, 5 for the Civic Awards, and then only 1 for the Key to the District. It just seems strange having the numbers on them, whereas if there's more than one worthy recipient for a medal or an honour, then you could have 2 or 3. It's not as though we're going to give away 35 of them. It will be limited anyway, so I think I would like to see the numbers removed and we decide how many get given out each year without having a limit. Council agree with that?
Yes.
Yep. Stuart?
Yes, I agree exactly. 6.3 in the keys to the district. I think the keys to the district, the previous term, it was if we had an All Black or somebody like that as outstanding, became an Olympic champion or something, we gave them the key to the district. And it would be a pity, one term, that means 3 years, I guess. So it'd be a pity if we had 2 All Blacks or 2 netball world champions or rugby women's world champion or something, and there were 2 of them. What do? Do you pick one and not the other? So I'm keen to see the keys of the district maintained, but take out 1 per term.
It's taking the limit off all of them. The council, the committee that awards them will decide how many. Yeah. Okay. Any further questions, councillors? John?
Yeah, quite a number of changes have been proposed. Would it be an idea to leave this to lie on the table to be returned to once the changes have been made by future council?
We could give it back to staff and so make those changes and bring it back to the new council. Because it's not doesn't have to be done today. It can be done any time. So there's a little bit of tidying up and could come back. So I don't know if we need to let it lie on the table, do we? Or probably the best, but we'll just take the net first and have a think.
I would like to see it lie on the table, and while they do research and give us a list, of how many have been given out, on what it would be nice to have that bit of history. Has the keys of the district gone out? Yes, yeah, we're not quite sure.
Okay, Tony?
Through the chair, look, more than happy to make the changes and bring it back to the new term of council. That's completely fine. In terms of what Councillor Lovett has raised in terms of getting a historical analysis of the allocation, that's probably a different piece of work, and I wouldn't be trying to dovetail the two in together. But if you feel that's necessary, we can do that.
Thoughts a little on the table is best avenue.
Yeah, I think either way will actually work.
Which was the other way?
Asking to see the a finalised draft at a future meeting will do the same thing to me.
Okay. So some wording around that. Council adopts a community on it. No, we don't adopt.
No. You acknowledge the changes you've made and look forward to a finalised draft.
I think it's just as easy let the matter lie on the table.
Yeah.
Bring it back. Yep. Someone like to move that?
I will.
Councillor Lovett, Councillor Falloon. All those in favour, those on the table, raise your hand. Passed. Thank you. Thanks. Next item, number 11, stock water report. Neff and Highway. Chrissy and Neil. Anything further to add, Chrissy? Nothing further. Questions, councillors? Lynette.
I'm just going to ask, where does this water originate from? Because on the small map we've got, I was trying to work out, does it come from Aharata Reserve, or is it a stream, or is it purely a water race? Just trying to look on and trying to work it all out.
Through the chair, the bulk of the water that goes down here, it comes from Methven Auxiliary, although there is some that comes from the Pudding Hill intake as well.
Right, okay.
So all the affected parties are in support of this closure?
No, not for this closure, they aren't. There are three. One property has indicated that they were either way, and two have said that they didn't support it. But they do have alternative supplies.
Okay. Liz.
Thank you. Through the chair, I've just got a question on number 6 about Waka Kotahi advising they want to retain the culvert under State Highway 77. Is that the same culvert that has been giving a lot of issues to some of the flooding that's been going down? And I know it's probably hasn't come to council's awareness, but I've had a number of phone calls about flooding that's come sort of out of Pole Road, Reynolds Road area onto a farm area, and Waka Kotahi have been working with that that person and to try and mediate, but I'm just wondering, have you been in contact with them other than that, them just saying that they would like to keep that culvert? Because I'd hate to see us closing it ended up worsening it regarding the flooding issue that they're having on State Highway 77.
Through the chair, no, we've had no other feedback from Waka Kotahi apart from the feedback they've provided specifically for this report. They were provided with the application and we asked for their feedback, and this is what they provided.
Further questions? Someone like to the recommendation in front of you, which is approving to close. Councillor Mackay.
Mr Mayor, councillors, I move the recommendation as is. If I've got a seconder, I'd like to.
Councillor Lovett. We'll speak to the motion.
Mr Mayor, Councillor McMillan asked about water flooding corner of State Highway 77 and Pole Road. Is that right? Is that the question? Sorry?
The other side of the road.
The other side of the road? This culvert, I understand, is very close to Dolmar Street, which would be some 2.5 k's up the road, if I got the wrong culvert. can you please let us have a wee bit of discretion, Mr Mayor, over this, so we have it right, please? Because I've just broken meeting procedure.
Yeah. Chrissy, or which culvert are we actually talking about in here? Are you?
Through the chair, it's a little bit difficult to show on the small map, but potentially it's halfway down from where it turns heads along at the cottages there, where it heads to the right. If you're looking at your map, it's about halfway down, carrying down on towards Reynolds Road. There's a culvert that goes through there.
Okay.
It actually comes out through from the applicant's property and crosses the road there. But we will be working with Waka Kotahi have asked us that we advise them what's happening with this application, and then we will work with them where we can.
Right. Councillor Mackay?
Well, I still continue with the motion, but I will warn you, councillors, that culverts under roads left for flood purposes always flood the person out at the bottom of wherever they go. So all you're doing is transferring the problem, in my considered opinion. But I do urge you wholeheartedly to please support this recommendation, because this issue and this area has been around for so many years, it's not funny.
Further speakers for or against the motion? With there being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Next item is stockwater closure Alamo area. And Chris, anything further to add? Just one question, comment. I was looking through the rating base on the council's website, and we have a minimum charge of $205 per short length of water race at the moment in our annual plan. Yet looking up the rates on these properties, the ones that are being rated, is at $152. It's probably not your department, or has your department not advised rating that it's to be lifted? But I can give you further information later if you wish.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
and there's one property on this one that's not being rated at all for water races. So, councillors, questions? Stuart.
Thanks, Mr Chairman. I'm opposed to the motion. I think the stock water race should be closed. You go through and read the reasons for people not supporting it. Quite a bit of it is ADC-owned land. Are we promoting closing of water races and then turn around and opposing the closing of the race? Have these people got house water? Is there a house on the property? If they've got house water, there's no reason why you can't have house water for one paddock, another one with one paddock, another one with 2 hectares. This is what usually happens. All these little blocks ensure that we keep these stock water races open. And I think it's time we hit the wall and said, right, a small paddock like that, you can put a water tank in, collect water off your roof if you've got a house or some other thing. So I think I'm opposed to the motion. I think we should close it.
Because we've got 9 for and 9 against in this race, which is not a clear direction, if we can't take Councillor Wilson's direction or not, or his comments on board, should we not perhaps have a hearing on this to get the submitters in and talk to them and make a decision after that?
That's right. You could choose to do that. Our protocol at the moment is that where it's not clear or where there is opposition, it comes to council for a decision. So you could. It's for council to decide the application for closure. If you felt in this particular circumstance you wanted to follow a one-off hearing type process, you could be free to do that.
Yeah. I'm just seeing here that the officers are recommended to decline the closure which one councillor has said that we shouldn't do that. But I don't think we've got enough information to go against the officer's recommendation here. If we had a hearing and listened to the applicants or those for and against, we then could make an informed decision because it's not clear cut. Neil.
Through the chair, an important decision for us to make when putting these reports together is whether they have alternative water supplies, and we do investigate and we look at options down that path. Here we have looked, and there are several properties that there is no alternative water supply, and in fact it's over 1 kilometre away to an irrigation company supply. So that's pretty much indicating that if there is to be an alternative water supply, there would be significant expenditure in providing that water supply, and that's what we've identified here, is that it's anything from $50,000 to $100,000 to supply that alternative water supply. Hence our recommendation is that we can't close it, because we certainly we don't recommend council pays for that alternative water supply.
No, just taking that on board and just looking at the property number 5499. It's 52 metres a race, and it services one small paddock at the front of the property. So there's obviously another part of the property which is getting stock water from somewhere else, which is okay. So why do we need supply to one little paddock where the rest is not? That'd be questions we'd like to ask the applicants. Can they get it from elsewhere? Or the people submitting for or against it. Yeah, so this hence perhaps a hearing. Councillor Mackay.
Are we in questions or debate, Mr Mayor?
We're still on questions, but we can move to debate if you wish.
Question, be good.
Question, right?
Yeah. A question to the Chief Executive. Does he think it might be possible in the future for council staff to come up with a plan after discussions with the locals up there? I ask the question because there will be a water supply up there somewhere that can be connected in. So I'm asking, maybe we make no decision today, because I believe I'm debating, sorry.
The question is...
I don't quite understand what plan I'm coming up with. What was the...
Can we meet with the ones that are saying no and see if we can come up with a plan to service them?
Haven't we already done that?
We already done that.
So through the chair, I have investigated with RDR and with BCI as to what is available in the area for there's 3 large properties that do not have an alternative at this stage. This is forgoing the small lifestyle blocks. This is larger properties further down who have all the 3 of them have advised me verbally that they have no alternative. BCI are approximately 1 kilometre away. They have a pond. They have told me 200 to 250,000 to pipe across. And RDR have told me that we will have to put in a whole lot of very technical infrastructure and hook up to the RDR, and they are talking between 50 and 100,000 to do that. Also, we have to put an additional race to connect it. So I have investigated, or I have spoken with the various parties up there.
Thank you.
For questions, does someone like to either move that recommendation or another one?
I'll move, Mr Mayor.
That you decline the application to close the water race?
Yes.
Councillor Latham has moved. Is there a seconder?
I will second that.
Open for debate. Stuart.
I'll move an amendment that we have a hearing with the people who do not want it closed. I mean, to say you help stop water from flooding around my house, we have to have the race to help stop. I'll move amendment that we do not close it in the meantime, that we do not leave it open, or we not move a motion to close it. I move an amendment that we have a hearing from those people who oppose the closure come and speak to the council.
I don't know if it's an amendment or is it a totally new motion? It's a totally new motion, I think.
Yeah, through Mr Mayor, if the intent is to have the hearing, maybe we just keep it as simple as that, because I think we would invite the people wanting it closed as well. Like I think natural justice would require the council to consider both sides of the application. So if you were happy just to say that this matter be referred to a hearing, then that might give effect to your overall intent.
Are the mover and the seconder happy for that, or do they want to progress with this recommendation?
I'm not happy with the altering the motion.
Hang on, the others have to go off. Did Roger come on? Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I would prefer to move the recommendation as put forward to us. I think the staff have done everything they are obliged to do and probably more, and they have come up with this recommendation. Although I agree with Councillor Wilson that some of the reasons for not closing it given by some of the landowners are a bit weak, in my opinion. I think the staff have done everything that's they're obliged to do. They've done it well, and I would accept their recommendations, and I'm not happy to change that recommendation.
Okay, well, that's fine. So if you're not changing it, then that is okay. This recommendation could be put and it could be lost. And then another recommendation could come from Councillor Wilson suggesting that a hearing being held if this recommendation is lost. So I'll test that. And Councillor Mackay.
Mr. Mayor, can I please second Councillor Wilson's notice of motion?
No, you can't, because we've got this recommendation in front of us, but you may shortly if there is one. He hadn't done a notice of motion. He did.
I thought he had.
An amendment. No, but he's probably one coming if this is lost.
You better hurry up.
Yeah. Councillor Falloon.
I certainly agree with the idea of having a hearing. When I always look at these on a meterage being closed basis, and when I look at those who oppose it, of the meters being closed, those who oppose it are 48.5% of the total amount of the water race length. So to me, this is a too close a call to make a decision one way or the other, and I think the only way to do it is to have a hearing.
Yep. Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm opposing the motion not because I think what the officers have done is incorrect. They have got a set of rules that they have to follow. So if somebody says, I need that race for firefighting, they use that as an excuse, which is completely irrelevant nowadays. A tiny little crickly water race, that's not going to be a firefighting creek. And this flooding around my house. Why do you want a water race to stop flooding around your house? You can build a stop bank without having a water race. Anyway, to say that we're tied to what the officers have done, to me is incorrect. They've done it according to the rules. Therefore, for us as councillors, we want to hear the fors and against ourselves so we can interrogate people who've got quite minor reasons for keeping it open, which we know small block holders always seem to. So I think we're premature at this stage to pass a motion to turn the closing it down.
Yeah, I also don't support this recommendation. I think we should go to a hearing and let the applicants and the submitters talk to us, both those for and against. Councillor Brown.
The reason I'm against it is that we have to follow our own rules. All of a sudden, we're getting something what we don't like, and we want to go to talk to both parties. To me, to follow the rules is no, we can't turn it off. Next term, we might find something else or a way forward. You know, to me, we start using this. You know, we've got rules. We've been telling ourselves all the time we've got rules to follow, and now we don't do it. So for me, what has been said, what has been presented by the staff, that's what we have to follow.
Right, a reply? Oh, hang on, Councillor Lovett.
I just think for us it's too close to call with the numbers, and I think going to a hearing and listening to their complaints and seeing if we can come up with, after a compromise of so many years, to get them hooked up to other sources of water and then shut it. I think we need to get everyone round the table and work it through at a hearing.
Right, a reply, Councillor Latham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Very briefly, I take on board what Councillor Wilson says and his opinion that some of the excuses are rather minor, and that's quite true, but we made the rules. Staff have followed the rules that the council, as in governance, have made. And so their net recommendation to us, I believe, is perfectly correct, and they've done a good job, and it's not going to be life-threatening if we accept this recommendation. And so I would say, again, I'd support the recommendation.
I'm going to put the recommendation. I'm against the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Against. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So,
Last chance.
the recommendation was lost. And Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll move a motion that regards Stockwater closure SKW 00822 Anima area. We held a hearing between the recipients, both for and against, to determine whether the race should be closed or not.
Seconder for that, Councillor Mackay.
I actually believe staff have followed the rules. In fact, I've actually been very impressed with the way Stockwater matters have been handled in the last few months, and it's actually one of the reasons why I decided to retire from council, because I knew it was finally in good hands. I'll just leave it at that. Mr Chief Executive, your choice of personnel in this field at the moment excels expectations, so thank you for that.
I'm sorry that choice has cost you your political career.
I think a hearing is the best way forward in the future, Mr Mayor.
Order. Thank you. For speakers for or against that motion? I'll put the motion. I'm in favour. All in favour, please say aye. Against? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 all. The motion was passed. I voted for. I voted twice. Yeah. Next item is community grants and funding, and the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Rawlinson have indicated, thanks Chrissy and Neil, have indicated a conflict. Clear. Floor's yours. Anything further to add?
Through the chair, yes, there's a couple of updates to this funding. In the sports and recreation school holiday program, there was an error in one of the applications. The Kids Methven grant should have been $1,800. So that is an update, and changing Mid-Canterbury Hockey to $1,075. And on the main page of the grant and funding report, it has $3,800 and it should be $3,875.
So it doesn't change it by much?
No.
And the funds are there?
Yes.
Yep. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Flynn?
I would move.
Second it. Councillor Cameron? Debate, discussion? If not, I'll put the motion in favour. I'm in favour. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. Thank you. Next item. Item 14 on page 94, Creative Community Grants Assessment. You still out for this one or not? Back in? You're out for this one, sorry, right. Any further to add, Claire?
No.
Questions, councillors? Sure, Councillor Floon?
Since I was at the meeting, I'd better move it, I suppose.
The seconder? Councillor Brown? No further discussion or debate. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Gets carried. Item number 15, clear. Item number 15, delegation to the Chief Executive during the interim election period. And there's just one thing to add. Additional clause that adding to that council does not discharge the library and civic centre project control group, which is scheduled to next meet on the 13th of October 22. So we need to do that so that project control group can continue. And councillors are welcome to attend that, who are still councillors, if they are councillors.
So
You would not be there, no. But other members who are here now could be there. Yeah.
Can I
As
just ask a
understand it.
question?
Yeah, Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. Just a question on the citizenship ceremony that I think is due for the 12th of October. Does the Mayor...
He's still the Mayor up until the 13th of October, as I understand, when the declaration is, the final count is declared. So, yes, I can take it.
You can take it.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Can I move that motion then?
Councillor Brown got a question?
And it's fine.
And seconded? Councillor Brown, so I've added in that the PCG stays there, and understand that. We need someone in charge while we're in limbo, so don't do anything rash. Councillor Latham. Any further debate? If not, put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. On to the Mayor's report. There's a recommendation there for the page, item 16, page 101, the RDR AGM, that the council appoints deputy mayor to proxy to vote on council's behalf at the AGM on the 8th of November 22, with the chief executive as the alternative representative. So I'd like to move that. Councillor Falloon. Councillor Cameron. Put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Gets carried. Thank you. So I'll just read this 16.2. As this terrainum of council comes to an end, I'd like to extend my thanks and appreciation to my fellow councillors for their dedication and for sacrifices that you and your families have made to represent the people of the Ashburton District. Sometimes the work of council can feel overwhelmingly and incredibly slow, yet on reflection we've achieved a lot. We've managed ourselves through the world pandemic called COVID-19, worked with community over the 2021 May floods of the Ashburton and the Hines River, completed the business case for the second urban bridge, oversaw the upgrade of the CBD, saw the installation of the sewer pipe under the Ashburton River and linked to the completion of the relief sewer main, the installation of water meters in Methven to eliminate water leaks, and the installation of one of the reservoirs in Methven with another one to be yet completed. In addition, we've seen the new library and civic building and emergency operating centre half completed. We applied for and obtained $20 million from the government's shovel-ready fund for this project, which was a major achievement. Over the 3-year term, we've spent tens of millions of dollars on our roading network, and at times it's hard to see where this money has had an effect, but it has. It is to be noted that the roading network will need much more attention and money spent on it in the future. We will finish this triennium leaving the district in a much better condition than when we started. The district has also been fortunate in securing significant central government funding, increased levels of NZTA funds, provincial growth funds, tourism infrastructure funds, and Ministry of Education investment in many of the district schools. There's been some of the infrastructure projects that have been successfully completed, but there's been a lot of other work completed, whether it's with the Safer Mid-Canterbury Council or on a biodiversity committee, a reserve board or a hawk committee. You've all attended many meetings over the term, both during work hours and outside of working hours, and for this I thank you. That's it. Any question? Oh, there it is. I'm missing a page. I would also like to extend appreciation to the Chief Executive Hamish Riak and Council staff for the guidance and support you have provided myself and elected members over the past 3 years. It's been a journey and one I've thoroughly enjoyed. We could not have done it without you all. We have been the team of 10 serving the team of 35,000. To you all, I wish you the very best for whatever the future holds. It's been a privilege and a pleasure to work with you all. Thank you. And there's the diary of meetings I attended. I'll move that we receive the final Mayor's report. The seconder, Councillor Cameron. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. And we're going to move now on to our valedictories. And first up is going to be Councillor Cameron for Councillor Falloon.
Everybody's here.
Councillors, have you got any one that you're expecting to be along that's not turned up yet for this part? Shall we wait? We'll change the order. Yep. Liz.
I can speak slowly. It's my pleasure to give the valedictory speech for Councillor Angus Mackay. I first met Angus in 2010 when I was chair of the Methven Community Board, and Angus had just been elected as Mayor of Ashburton, a position he held for 6 years until 2016. It was a job he relished and performed outstandingly. He had some challenges during that time, one being the Canterbury earthquakes of 2011 and the other being the tragic shooting at the Ashburton Winds office. During these events, he led the district superbly. Fast forward 3 years, and Angus was a candidate for councillor in the Ashburton ward for the 2019 elections. Angus was sworn in on the 24th of October 2019. Until council changed the committee structure, Councillor Mackay was the Deputy Chair of Bylaw and Policy and the Chair of Community Services. He was also a member of the Environmental Services Committee. For the entire term, Councillor Mackay has been the appointee to the Canterbury Regional Water Management Committee, Town Centre Committee and the Dorrie and Seafield Reserve Boards. Councillor Mackay has brought much knowledge to our council table, standing orders, meeting protocol, and his extensive knowledge of the local rivers, stockwater races and flood zones have been most useful in meetings. His knowledge of the Ashburton stock banks was particularly helpful during the May 21 flooding event. He has a great memory of past meetings and decisions that have been made. On occasion, Angus will bring up his love-hate relationship of Stella, our system that holds all our meeting agendas and reports. Quite often you will hear him muttering under his breath about Stella this and Stella that. I am sure that Stella will not be something you miss about council. On speaking about standing orders and meeting protocol, I did enjoy it when you asked me if you should call me Madam Chair, Deputy Mayor whenever I chaired a meeting, even though I thought it was a bit of a mouthful. On behalf of us all here, we wish you well in your next endeavours and thank you for all the service that you've given the Ashburton District over the years. We'll come up then.
Councillor Mackay, you have the right of reply.
Do we do this now?
Yeah, come up. Please come forward, Angus, and receive a gift. Oh, the plant there. You can leave the plants here until you get them ready. Come forward, Angus. Congratulations. For your service.
Gifts. Could almost be the three wise men.
What do you mean otherwise?
I have a support crew with me for this last meeting. Could Nikki and Mark come forward and help me with the gifts, please?
Oh.
You're on your own.
He's doing your own. Right, Tammy.
We'll hold them all.
Thank you,
We'll
Liz.
hold them.
Okay.
You wish to speak, Angus?
Yes,
Oh, you do.
I'm going to put these
We'll leave them all
here. We'll leave them.
and you can speak them later.
There you go. He's going to drink.
No, I'm not going to drink the water. Liz, thank you very much. I remember calling to see you not long after I lost once, and it was a very moving moment. Thank you. Mr. Chief Executive, the Mayor gave me a present some weeks ago. I took that present to the Domain. I tipped it out in the Rose Garden. I took the bottle home and I put it 3 times through the dishmaster. I filled it with Mr. McCann's water from a tap at 18 Tarangi Road this morning. I give you this to drink your council's achievement.
With the whole new meaning of holding your water.
If there's any complaints, please see Mr. McCann.
Yes, I look forward to enjoying that with you, Councillor.
To the people of the Ashburton District, thank you for your support over the last 25 years. It has been a wonderful journey for me, delivering your aspirations. Mr. Mayor, your patience, I must have stretched occasionally in the last 3 years, but I was never called to your office, sir. Thank you for the way you focused council on the issues inside the decisions we as a collective had to make. Councillors, you have been a pleasure to work with, and I've worked with a few councils over the years. No grudges held, disagreeing, listening, accepting the outcome and moving on. You could say as a council we are almost grown up. To those of you who carry out our policies, our plans, Jane, our bylaws, our decisions, provide the feedback, Tony, background, options, the agendas, and how many people thank the council staff each time they press the flush button. Water comes out of a tap, potholes are fixed, making it possible for one to travel around the district, view art, history, go for a swim, play with a ball, and all the other services that you people make happen. Many of you I treat as personal friends. To you all, thank you for making it happen, for your passion and dedication for this place, Ashburton. I have often wondered if Christchurch is known as the Garden City, that Ashburton should be known as the Garden Town. Its majestic domain and gardens are truly magnificent. I now pass the baton to a new team who I know will have the passion and love for this district that I have had. I hope whoever sits down there on the left is not scared to ask the question, make the comment, test the meeting. Councillors, people of Ashburton, my conscience, my heart tells me I have done my very best. Thank you.
Thank you, Angus. Then for those wise comments towards the end. Caroline, can we have you up now for John's valedictory?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. It gives me great pleasure to spend the next few minutes talking about who has become a dear friend of mine, John Falloon. John and I both started as new councillors in October 2019, and for the duration of the term, he was appointed as Chair of Bylaw and Policy, Deputy Chair of Audit and Risk, and also a member of the Creative Communities Assessment and the Town Centre Subcommittee. I was very impressed by how quickly John assimilated into council and got up to speed with the current council program of policy reviews, strategic plans, and of course annual and long-term plans and other council tasks. John is an experienced accountant and has a great skill when it comes to quickly assimilating balance sheets, profit and loss statements, and any other financial document. He has used the skill to the benefit of the council staff, where he has offered support and advice if requested. He's also used it to the benefit of fellow councillors and of course to the benefit of our community. I did not know John prior to joining the council in 2019, but when you sit opposite a person 2 to 3 times a week for about 48 weeks a year, you do get to understand and appreciate the attributes people bring to council. I've developed significant respect for John's perspective over the years and also grown to enjoy his company. John speaks in a deliberate and considered fashion, and we've all learnt to listen to his views on a particular matter. And he generally delivers this by leaning forward on his elbows and peering into the distance. But he holds everybody, it has been a pleasure to get to know John, and he holds everyone to a high standard and is always well prepared for his meeting and often does extensive background research on any topic. Apart from his significant technical skill, John demonstrates key personal traits, amongst which I would count honesty, integrity, forthrightness, and a genuine desire to serve our community. John, thank you for your service to our community. Thank you for your valuable contribution you've made to this council. I'm sure you and Shirley have plans to enjoy your newly found spare time. I know I speak on behalf of the councillors as well as staff when I thank you and wish you and Shirley all the best.
John, do you please come forward and receive your gift and the right of reply if you wish. Congratulations. For you. Thank you. Thank you. You can give those to Shirley.
Oh, I don't understand. Just taking the photograph.
Leave it there for you. Leave it for later.
Well, after that, I'm not too sure where to start. I thought I was going to be one doing the talking, not someone talking about me. And normally you only get that done when you leave something or you die. So, however, 3 years ago, Shirley and I were in Machu Picchu when I got a message from one of the kids saying that I'd been elected to council. We thought this deserved a wee drink to celebrate it, but as it was very late, the bar was closed, though we managed to get a beer and a mother's milk for Shirley in the restaurant, which was about to close. Because I was away, I missed the first council meeting, but made the second for the swearing in. That first few weeks were what I had expected, reading and meetings. But that all changed at 3 p.m. on Christmas Eve 2019, when a nice young fellow from the council delivered a large, plain brown wrapped package. It turned out to be the long-term plan, along with a few Christmas sweeties, which the grandsons demolished very quickly. And so we were introduced to plans which, along with policies, was to make up the majority of council work. In March 2020, government took away our freedoms and closed much of the country down due to COVID. Council adapted by meeting weekly via Zoom on our laptops from home. An interesting experience with our faces lined up in rows, much like the Brady Bunch. But we learned from this by doing away with all non-statutory committees and had full council meetings twice monthly, This increased the efficiency of council workings markedly by not having to discuss things twice. Sure, some councillors, while not being against it, the new way, still like the smaller committee structure where the roading manager could be grilled on why Snake Gully Valley Road had not been graded. This leads me on to the superb efforts of District Council staff and officers who report back to us at activity briefings and presenting reports and policies to councillors, where they sit right down there, facing 9 councillors and the mayor, must be uncomfortable at times. The most relaxed would have to be Jill from the library, who's been around for such a long time. I am sure she knows the answers before a councillor asks her questions. Over the last 3 years, we have looked at a lot of policies, so much so that I've come to enjoy it. Poor me. This has been brought about by the ability of the strategy and policy team who present to council at most meetings as people who are on top of their game. A big thanks go to our executive team, where I'm sure that if we as a council have some good subject discussions, then they must also. It would be interesting to be a fly on the wall at times. I can recall that the District Council have had a number and variety of CEOs, one supposedly covered in Teflon. I have a simple way of working out how successful a CEO is, and that is on how much criticism you hear and see in the media. Hamish, I have not heard a negative word about you, which is testament to the great job you are doing. Thank you for the support that you give councillors. Forrest Gump said that life is like a box of chocolates. Well, what you get sitting around a council table is very similar. A number of people have said to me that this is the best council that the Ashburton District has had for a number of years. This, I believe, comes from all us having a similar vision to make the district a great place to work and play. There are no personal agendas, no personal political agendas, just a desire to work collectively towards our shared vision. We're all unique and so have some discussion, some robust discussions, but there is no animosity or ill feeling. It has been enjoyable to work with such a group. Neil, as Mayor, has done a wonderful job. Neil does not dominate a meeting, but allows all participants to have their say. When not in the chair, Neil is a very good councillor and asking lots of intelligent questions. When leadership is required, he is excellent at stepping up, as we have seen during the 2021 floods. Thank you, Neil. It has been an honour working with you. Council's work will continue, and I would like to see as much Three Waters work done as possible while we still have control. On reading the legislation creating the new water entities, it is like entering a whole new bureaucratic swamp. So getting things done will require a lot of time and patience. Well, that's me done and dusted, but I would like to thank all those who have voted and supported me. I have enjoyed my time on council, which does come at a loss of some family time. So my thanks also to Shirley for her patience. Thanks to you all.
Well done, John. Thanks very much. And next we have Roger, who will deliver for Diane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Rawlinson, you are hereby charged that on or about October 2016, you did, with no malice aforethought, persuade the electors of the Ashburton ward to elect you to the position of District Councillor, and that during the following 3 years that you did serve in that capacity. You are also charged that during that time you were appointed to the Green Street Reserve Board, the Tynwald Reserve Board, and was also a member of 8 council committees and served as Deputy Chair of the Environmental Services Committee. And that you did vigorously oppose the position of the second bridge, and that you tried, albeit unsuccessfully, to persuade fellow councillors to your point of view. Furthermore, you are further charged that on or about October 2019, you did again persuade the electors of the Ashburton ward to re-elect you to the same position, and that once again you did serve on 8 committees involved in road safety, civic centre development, biodiversity, town centre development, and Heritage Mid Canterbury. And that also you were appointed to groups involved in total mobility, youth council, the Pendarvis Reserve Board, and you served as chairman of the Environmental Services. You are further charged that with willingness, enthusiasm, and again with no malice aforethought, you faithfully served this district for 6 years in your role as district councillor. And I hereby find you guilty of those charges laid before you, and it's my duty is to, on behalf of the councillors and the people of this district, to say thank you and to wish you well in the future, wherever the road may lead.
Roger, reply. Roger. Give us all.
Who does what?
You give it. You're the eye candy.
Hey?
You're the eye candy.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
You better talk to these guys.
Congratulations, well done.
Thank you, Hamish. So I'll have to pop it all.
We'll leave it all there for you.
Thank you.
You come
Guilty as
first.
charged.
Guilty as charged, yes.
Thank you very much.
The floor's yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Roger. And I'll have to admit guilty as charged. Well, as my time of 6 years on the Ashburton District Council comes to a close, it has been a time of reflections on the ups and downs of life as a councillor, although I must say it has been more ups than downs. Being a councillor is both enlightening and challenging in many ways, and although the wheels of process turn but slowly, it is also very rewarding when we see the projects actually happening. My interest in the council came about after 6 years of community group involvement, including calling the first meeting to gauge interest in forming a citizens association. And incidentally, that group is still going 11 years later. We often engaged by way of submissions to council, presented a 4,000 signature petition to council. I was appointed to the reference group for the bridge and the Tynwald Corridor Committee. When Angus was the mayor, we had many meetings to discuss happenings and concerns that the community cared deeply about. After much encouragement from the public and my strongly developing interest in the council, I decided to stand in 2016 and was duly elected. I wanted to be part of the decision-making team, rather than on the outside and always challenging the council. Although I came to the table with some knowledge of governance, it is certainly a time of learning, especially how to get your head around the complexities of the Local Government Act, which we have to abide by, and then you learn about that long-term plan, which not only sets the long-term budget for the next 10 years, but also the short-term for 3 years. After going through over 200 pages, line by line, for 2 days, you certainly know what you have got to spend and what you can't spend. My time here has been interrupted on a personal level a couple of times, one when I had a new hip, and then I decided I'd have a little stroke, and I appreciated the support that I got from the council, and especially from Councillor Lovett and Brahm for driving me to meetings for the first 4 weeks when I wasn't allowed to drive. I was determined to be here, but I just couldn't get myself here. My other hip gets replaced in 4 months' time, so I should be ready to run this time and get back on a golf course again. Talking of interruptions, along came COVID in this term, an ongoing interruption like most of us have never experienced before. We quickly learned all about Zoom, the new go-to word for having a meeting. We met mostly fortnightly or more often if needed. What it did teach the council and the senior management was that fortnightly meetings were actually more efficient than our former 6-week cycle and resulted in a change to the meeting structures. Another interruption was not only to our community but the state highway, as the May 2021 flood took out our bridge for 3 or 4 days. Suddenly our mayor was a media star and on first name terms with the Prime Minister, and Ashburton was on the news every day. Again, with great cooperation all around, our people supported each other and drove a long way to get round the top of the county or to drive north and south, and found ways to work around the major disconnect in the middle of the South Island, which shows that we are a resilient community. There are several things that I will miss, and the first being the 6 weekly activity reports from all the departments of operation, and that's because I like to know everything. The second will be the Project Control Group subcommittee meetings that happen every month in regards to the new Civic Centre and the library. This is the most expensive project ever taken on by the council, but I'm confident that as our region grows, this building will serve the district well for the next 50 plus years. Our walk-through visits from before the first pour of the concrete through to the present day state of the building have been so interesting and informative. I'm proud of the fact that I was one of the group of councillors who stood our ground to get the whole building on one site with the offices and the library all together. The roading and road safety committees have also been special interest to me. A lot of good smaller outcomes have come from road safety meetings, and after trying for years and years to get the new footpath from Lockley to Allens Road, I thought I was on a winner by suggesting that we have a grit footpath, a temporary measure from Lockley to Allens Road. And I'd suggested this as a temporary measure. The roading manager's eyes lit up, and it seemed to be a goer, until EA Networks got in on the discussions about removing their power poles. So I will be watching that one closely. Good luck to you, Liz McMillan, with your grit path and Methven to the hot pools. A few other items that I've supported and had good outcomes were granting the former Information Centre building to the Mid-Canterbury Aero Club. It looks great on its new site, and I think some of us are going to the official opening on Saturday. This was also a hot topic, was the potential relocation of the bowling club in the Domain, and that gave the media plenty to write about. But we voted to leave it exactly where it is. Other interesting committees that I've participated in, I think Roger touched on most of them, but Safer Mid-Canterbury, Town Centre Redevelopment, Tynwald Reserve Board, Youth Council, Total Mobility and Biodiversity. And this term I represented the Mayor on the Senior Centre Board. This has been a great experience for me, and as of Friday this week I'm a trustee now in my own right, but no longer represent the Mayor, so somebody else will fill those shoes next year. I've seen 2 mayors and 2 CEO officers in my time on council, and I would especially like to say thank you to you, Hamish, for your positive support to us and your never-ending bucket of knowledge. It's a very deep bucket, I think. Thanks also to the other staff who support us councillors with reports and more information when we need it. And finally, thank you to fellow councillors. We read, we question, we debate, but then despite differing opinions, we always leave it behind us in the room. and we leave as friends. It has been a pleasure to serve our community alongside all of you. Finally, to those of you standing for re-election, good luck, and I hope that I might be able to watch you online in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Well done. And next up, we have a valedictory for Stuart, which will be delivered by myself. Councillor Stuart Wilson. Stuart was first elected onto council on the 2nd of October in 2010 as an Eastern Ward councillor. That day was the start of 4 terms or 12 years for Stuart as a councillor for the Ashburton District. Stuart has a passion for doing what he can and giving back to the community that enabled him to farm all his life in the Hines area. With his wife Betty, they raised their family on their mixed cropping farm. Stuart served on 12 committees or boards in his first 2 terms of council from 2010 to 2016. This gave him a good grounding on all council processes, which he capitalised on in performing his duties over his tenure. His second term showed his practical skills, especially around roading, which would be fair to say is his passion project. Stuart's mission has been getting the roads to a good standard and holding those responsible to account for this work. Hence, in his second term, he was awarded the chair position of the Service Delivery Committee, a job he relished and was born to do. In his committee, he was also overseeing the 3 waters and solid waste areas for the council, as well as a few other things. Under Stuart's tenure, there was the establishment of the Rural and Urban Road Reference Groups, which included community representatives working with council. This was set up to have a more in-depth look into the roading issues in the rural and urban areas and how they could be improved. And a good example of Stuart's belief of work. This was a good example of Stuart's belief of working for and with the community. The 2006 to 19 term, third term, brought Stuart's more responsibility with 14 committees or boards and the retention of his chairing the Service Delivery Committee. In this term, he also chaired the Stockwater Working Group, which was established to look at the future of Stockwater network in Ashburton. He was also appointed on the Ashburton Zone Committee, which is a joint committee with ECAN, and is a position he still holds today. This current term, Stuart's final one, has seen quite a few changes around the council table. Stuart has been part of a smaller team of 9 councillors and far fewer committees. It's been a very effective team, with Stuart helping to share the knowledge gained through his hard work and dedication over the years. Stuart volunteered to chairing workshops or hearings when the opportunities presented themselves, which he transitioned into very easily, given his understanding of meeting protocols. Stuart has served under 3 mayors, Mayors Mackay, Favour, and of course myself. I've been on council sitting alongside Stuart during his whole time here, and have thoroughly enjoyed him being a colleague and a friend. He brought many talents to the council table. Stuart was never one to remain quiet in a debate, but always waited patiently until it was his turn to speak. He knew his standing orders and often used them to his advantage. The main one, and I'm sure his favourite by far, was calling out, "Point of order," which put his opponent or opponents into a flurry and generally put them off their train of thought, which was his strategy. Stuart is also known for keeping his eyes on the spending, and many rue the day they challenged his understanding of how budgets worked. His careful and conservative approach, combined with his sharp wit, did we see him famously compare the council to Santa Claus, a comment many enjoyed reading in the local papers. Stuart also has a red book, which has recorded most council decisions and discussions going back 12 years. That book could be titled Council as I Saw It. I wish Stuart all the best for his retirement. May you enjoy your little Morris 8 car and your lovely house and section on Tarbottoms Road, which I know has ample water to keep the grounds in immaculate order. Take Betty out in your lovely Morris 8 and enjoy the district. And if you spot a road that needs attention, whether it's a pothole or something more serious, snap, send, solve it. And we'll get one of the council's other engineers to get it fixed, as you have now relinquished your honorary engineer's role. Stuart, you've played a major part in helping make this wonderful district into being prosperous and enjoyable place to work and play. Hariwa nohu ora mai. All the best. You may wish to do it to death here. Congratulations, Stuart. Well done.
Okay, mate.
Stuart, well done. And there's a tree, and we'll pop that over there for you.
Yeah. Those for me.
I'll just put those to
Yeah, okay.
the floor's yours.
I'll wait till Liz gets back. Well, Mayor Neil, fellow councillors, Hamish and staff, ladies and gentlemen, as any good young farmer or JC knows, that's how you start your speech. Thank you very much for those kind words, Neil. I'd like to quote David Longy. After hearing all those good words, I don't know why on earth I retired. I first stood for council because after submitting for several years on behalf of Federated Farmers, I felt rural ratepayers were getting an unfair deal. Paying over 80% of the general rate, councillors were reluctant to increase the UAGC to spread the load of providing community facilities. I'm pleased to see later councillors have realised that every ratepayer should contribute to facilities that all utilise. For 12 years, council has been a part of our lives. And I mean our lives. Being on ADC involves not only myself as a councillor, but Betty has supported me the whole time. No major holidays. I'm too conscientious for that. I hate missing a meeting or a workshop. Being a councillor takes a commitment that I take seriously. With the idea that councillors must be representatives of society as a whole is all very well. Those who put their names forward should understand the reading and time involved and the major commitment needed to be an effective councillor. I have thoroughly enjoyed my four terms. As you gain experience, it is rewarding and a real responsibility to have some input in decisions that affect everybody who live in our district. As a group of councillors, seeing one another numerous times a week become not only colleagues but personal friends. Mayor Neil and fellow councillors, I've enjoyed your company both professionally and socially. I know this district is fortunate to have elected representatives who all want the best for the ratepayers, indeed all residents of the Ashburton District. No one is there for personal promotion. That doesn't mean we don't debate every decision. I introduced two words. One, as Neil said, point of order and gerrymander. One thing this afternoon, no one can try a point of order on me. I can say what I like without interruption. Once decisions are made with this council, no animosity is carried over. We all abide by majority vote. You win some, you lose some. I think the important is to follow your convictions. For better or for worse, I've always said what I think. Thank you, councillors and staff, for putting up with my opinion that may have offended you. I can still see the startled look on the Kiwi Rail manager a few weeks ago when he spoke about Walnut Avenue and he was told how incompetent he was over the delays. When first elected, I was appointed to the committee writing the 2010 district plan. This was a major undertaking, and under the leadership of former councillor Robin Kilworth, who was a licensed commissioner, I learned a huge amount the RMA and district planning. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I think it's a very retrograde step to exclude councillors from these panels who are not licensed commissioners. We can all bring local knowledge how the future of the district is planned. Hamish, to you and your team, I've got to get to know another group of people I would not otherwise have met and worked with. Hamish, you lead them well. Everyone has the best interest of the Ashburton District at heart, striving to get the best outcome for all who call Ashburton home. I have my favourites among the staff, but I must mention Neil McCann. I have a particular interest in infrastructure, especially roads. Neil and I worked together a lot when we had the committee structure. There is something special with develop complete trust between government and management. It's been great to get to know and work with you, Neil. I'm afraid there will be some ratepayers if they change their contact phone numbers for council roads. I seem to be the guru for the whole district, not only the eastern ward. If there's grading, gravel, potholes, anything, they ring Councillor Wilson. To other members of the council staff, it's great to get to know you personally. I admire the work you do. I know you're all looking forward to shifting to the new building for much better working conditions. Being seated opposite the management team has its rewards. Some are expressionless, while some of our decisions have approval, or occasionally, I'm sure on their faces they think, what on earth do those councillors think they're doing? What District Council has achieved over the last 12 years is a compliment how councillors and staff in this district work as a team. I won't go through with most been mentioned, the EA networks and the wastewater and everything. The only blight is the condition of our roads. No one has worked harder than I have to try and bring them up to where we want them. Believe me, I know where the potholes are. A big hole on Barford Road cost us an expensive new tyre. I'm sure citizens of the district understand the funding problem we have at NZTA. At least every council in New Zealand is having the same problem. Finally, I'll miss the fellowship of my fellow councillors and staff. I know this district will continue to prosper and be a great place to live. And I promise to observe strictly from the sideline. All future comments will be written in the Red Book in committee. I suppose I might as well put up my ties on Trade Me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart, and thank you to the four councillors who are knowingly leaving us generally today. Your trees, you can either take them with you or you can donate them if you wish, but they're there for you to take. So just like we're going to break for afternoon tea in a few moments' time. So I'm just going to say and wind up, because we've finished all the business of council today. The team of 10 is no longer. We'll become a new team of 10, whoever they are, on the 27th of October later this month, and we'll know who that team of 10 is going to be on Saturday afternoon. So thank you all for all your work you've done over the last 3 years. It's been appreciated by everyone, and we'll now break for a cup of tea. I'll declare the meeting closed and break for a cup of tea, and we can have a chat and more reminiscing. Thank you very much.
Neil, before you go, if you don't mind, we are a team of 10. You're correct, but every 10 you need someone on the top. You came there 3 years ago, and all of us here certainly enjoyed it. I stood against you for a start, but you knew I was the first one giving me your vote for mayor. And I told you that. And that was genuine. So thank you for what you did in the last 3 years for us as councillors.
Much appreciated. So we'll break there for a cup of tea and continue the chat.